Stephanie, I see Flamin' Hot Cheetos here. My dad's going to be devastated. What snacks are we specifically talking about here?
You want to watch this one all the way through.
How do you think they get that color in there? Are they using real lemon lime? Are they using real squeezed oranges in there?
Can we say for sure that these differences in regulations mean that people in the US have developed cancers that they would not have developed if they'd been eating only in Europe?
I think that is almost certainly the conclusion that we could reach. There is evidence that it may be toxic to human consumers.
Unfortunately, especially here in America, but also in other developing nations, in my opinion, is why we're so sick, why we're so overweight, and why we're dying so early.
It's a bit like movies. Some are outright banned in certain countries, some have stricter age restrictions, and others slide right under the radar. If a species of food is restricted somewhere, you know it's got some issues. But just like with those controversial movies, some countries seem to handle the chaos better than others.
Do you think most Americans are aware that they're being exposed to substances that are viewed as dangerous over here?
They probably just think, well, if it's available and it's in the store, then it's probably fine.
The United States has a world-class healthcare system and excellent medical facilities, which is why the FDA is very lax when it comes to approving food substances. However, as Dr. Bobby pointed out, just because something has an FDA-approved label doesn't mean it's completely safe.
So if Europe can do it, we certainly can too, but it does take more money. And it takes really this dedication to saying we're not going to allow for this low quality stuff to keep entering into our systems.
America might have the medical resources to address the health issues from the banned foods we consume. But let's face it, most of us can't afford the sky-high medical bills that come with it. Ready for a wake-up call? These 7 foods are packed with sneaky, harmful substances that could be silently sabotaging your health. Dr. Bobby's advice? Share this info with your loved ones as we all fight for a healthy present and future.
And many of these foods you're very familiar with. Many of these foods, many of us grew up eating on. Many of these foods are common things that we actually think are healthy. Many of them are banned in multiple countries. And I'll explain why many of them are banned.
Curious? Let's dive into the 7 US foods that are banned in other countries. Knowing what's lurking in your pantry is the first step to keeping your health in check. We need to know what's good or bad for us, so we can either avoid or limit it.
Food safety a part of that decision?
For sure, yeah. How am I going to protect my children when it's just everywhere?
The first is citrus soda and Gatorade.
Gatorade, we give this to athletes. They drink it during the game, during halftime, while training.
We all enjoy a refreshing balance of zest and electrolytes, don't we? But sorry, they're on Dr. Bobby's list, and let's find out why.
Because they contain a compound called BVO, or brominated vegetable oil. Okay, and this is very toxic to our health. We'll find them in things like Mountain Dew. So quite often what you'll notice is that these products, if you see them in another country, that the company has literally removed the BVO, the brominated vegetable oil, from the product.
BVO poses several health risks, including bromine buildup in the body, which can lead to skin lesions, headaches, and memory loss. It can disrupt thyroid function by displacing iodine, potentially causing imbalances. Animal studies suggest prolonged consumption may cause reproductive and developmental issues, as well as liver and heart damage. Due to these concerns, BVO is banned or restricted in many countries, but is still permitted in some foods and beverages in the United States. The second item on Dr. Bobby's list is the maraschino cherries.
And everybody wants a cherry on top.
Maraschino cherries are the little red gems that transform ordinary desserts into carnival-worthy treats, and they're the only fruit that belongs in a cocktail glass rather than a fruit salad. More apologies, as they are also on the list.
The reason why they're so red, is because they add a dye to it, and that dye is called red number 40. And that red number 40 is highly allergenic and highly toxic to our gut health, okay?
Red number 40, a common synthetic food dye, has been linked to health issues such as allergic reactions, hyperactivity, and behavioural problems in children, especially those with ADHD. While the evidence is inconclusive, there are concerns about cancer risks from contaminants like benzodiazepine in the dye. Health experts often recommend limiting artificial food dyes, particularly for children, and red number 40 foods have been banned in several countries. The next on this list is the United States pork.
Not one, not two, not 50, 160 countries have banned U.S. pork.
Not the pork of the US. Of course, they are fleshy and irresistible, but they have been banned in over 160 countries. Wow, that is a huge red flag, and we must be wondering why. But Dr. Bobby is here to explain.
U.S. pork, because the unfortunate thing is that for these animals, in their animal feed, they put a compound known as ractopamine. Okay, and ractopamine is not only detrimental to the health of the pig, but it's also detrimental to the person that eats it as well too. And as a result of this, 160 countries have banned U.S. pork. Okay, 160 countries.
Ractopamine, a feed additive used to promote lean meat in livestock, can negatively impact human health by increasing heart rate and blood pressure, causing muscle tremors and inducing anxiety. High levels of residues can also cause respiratory problems and toxicity. Due to these concerns, ractopamine is banned or restricted in many countries, but is still used in some, including the US. The next item on the list might surprise you. Yes, it's the US corn. What could be wrong with those crunchy snacks that are banned in over 30 countries around the world? We might have to limit them after hearing what Dr. Bobby thinks of them.
U.S. corn, why? Because somewhere between 90 and 98% of all U.S. corn is genetically modified. That's one. Which means that if it's genetically modified, it's going to be heavily sprayed with pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, and fungicides. And one of those is called atrazine. And atrazine is an endocrine disruptor. And specifically, it sort of disrupts the endocrine system and increases estrogen in the body, which could lead to a lot of the reproductive cancers that we're seeing exploding in both men and women.
We have thus heard a great deal about the long-term harm that these pesticides applied to corn cause. We may not be able to completely avoid it, but a limit may be possible, as it may appear impossible to avoid them. Prepackaged ground beef.
The ground beef that you would make like a hamburger with, and why?
We're getting to the more inciting part, which is the ground beef. What the hell could be toxic about this scrumptious beef?
They use a filler in it, and that filler is called pink slime, okay? Pink slime filler. And I didn't make that word up for myself. Pink slime filler. And the reason why that's so dangerous is because that pink slime filler is treated with ammonia gas, okay? Not making that up either.
Banned in over 160 countries outside the US, ammonia can be highly toxic over time, causing respiratory issues like coughing and shortness of breath. Ingesting ammonia-contaminated food can irritate the gastrointestinal tract, causing nausea, vomiting, and abdominal pain. High ammonia levels can strain the kidneys, cause systemic toxicity, and impair brain function, leading to confusion, headaches, and in severe cases, coma. These health risks is explain why ammonia is banned in many countries and how it undermines our health. Farm-raised fish and salmon. Farm-raised salmon and fish come next. So we discussed beef and now fish. I know you're thinking, what the hell is wrong with this channel and Dr. Bobby too? But is it really wrong to draw attention to something that isn't right? Well, it's all subjective for everyone, but we'd like to know why Dr. Bobby believes this is toxic to the human body and is banned in over 20 countries worldwide.
Because the unfortunate thing is when they're farm raised, they are fed a chemical cocktail of methylmercury, dioxin, and antibiotics.
Mercury and dioxins in farm-raised fish and salmon pose serious health risks. Mercury exposure can lead to neurological damage, such as tremors, memory loss, cognitive impairments, kidney damage, and increased cardiovascular risk. Dioxins, being carcinogenic, raise the risk of several cancers, particularly breast and liver cancer, and can weaken the immune system and disrupt reproductive and developmental processes. Both toxins can accumulate in the body, so it's crucial to limit consumption of fish high in these contaminants to reduce health risks. Cereals. Which food item on our list is the closing one today? Can you guess? So, it's some certain cereal brands.
Many of these cereals our children wake up every morning and eat.
Yeah, he's definitely right. Because what else do kids eat for breakfast most days besides this? Knowing which cereal brands are restricted in different parts of the world would be a huge help. Let's hear some bits from Dr. Bobby for almost the last time today.
Unfortunately, are banned in other countries. I'll give you a few examples. Fruit Loops, banned in other countries because it contains yellow number 5 and red number 40 that I mentioned earlier. Okay, banned in other countries. Now, they're not banning this because it's not natural. They're banning this again. You have to remember what I mentioned at the beginning. If you were to be banned in another country, in multiple countries at that, you would really have to do something pretty bad. Okay, so just trust me when I say, when you start to look up what yellow number 5 and red number 40 and other dyes similar to them do to our health, then you'll understand why it's so unhealthy, not only for our children, but for us as well too, okay?
Yellow number 5, or tartrazine, is a synthetic dye used in many foods that can cause adverse effects in some people. These include allergic reactions like skin rashes and asthma symptoms, increased hyperactivity, or behavioural problems in children with ADHD, and gastrointestinal distress in sensitive individuals. We might not be able to dodge every one of these troublemakers, but being in the know is half the battle. It lets us stay cautious and cut back, helping us live a healthier, more fulfilling life. Sure, our healthcare system is top-notch, but let's be honest, affordability is another story. So why not arm yourself with knowledge and make smarter choices?
Share this information with the people you love so that we can get this message out.
What are your thoughts on Dr. Bobby's 7 United States foods banned in other countries? Let me know in the comments below.